here's an explanation of the I'd Rather Have Jesus song, and I may change the title to I'd Rather Have Jesus 2, just with the number 2 in it, because it's a new version. I wrote a new tune to it, and it's just I only do that one verse for now, but the main lyrics I had thought of when I wanted to write it. And what I did is I had run across the original. This is how I wrote it, or how I came about it. I like the original. I love the lyrics, and I've liked the lyrics. I'll explain, since I was young and didn't understand them all the way, but I liked them. And so I had a moment yesterday where I wanted to sing those lyrics and make that message clear, and knowing why I'm singing it. More reasons why I'm singing it. I've always known why partly I wanted to sing it, but I've know more reasons why I want to sing it now. And so I started to record it, or I did record it, the regular hymn, the normal one. I practiced it and practiced my throat. I'm having vocal trouble with, I can sing loud, really loud now, and I can sing soft stuff, but I'm having hoarse vocal problems, I think maybe from weight gain partly, to go in between and to go from soft to loud. I can't do the in between like crescendos and stuff real good, but I can do loud, either loud or soft singing. And so I can't do the in between too well right now. There's got a crack in there or something, crack in my throat. And so you have, so I'd Rather Have Jesus. I was singing it. I did a lot of the regular hymn, and then I didn't take time. I wanted to hurry and do it while I had time. And I came up with one I wanted. I got it ready to record and ready to upload. And then I had to look up the author and date to give credit to where credit's due and make sure it's public domain. And I come to find out the lyrics are public domain because they were written in 1922. But the tune was written by, I forgot his name, George Beverly Shea. George Beverly Shea, who's sung with Billy Graham, and he's traveled with the Gaithers, or he's been at some Gaither presentations that I've seen in the past. When Larnell Harris was singing His Eyes on the Sparrow, there's a video where he does with the Gaithers at a camp meeting, I think, in North Carolina or somewhere. And you could see George Beverly Shea in the audience during that song too. And they put the camera on him. Anyway, he arranged the song and the tune that we all know. That's called I'd Rather Have Jesus Than Anything. And so I found out, okay, I can't do that without a permission, not properly without a permission. So I was like, okay, I just worked on this real hard and I really want to show it. I kind of liked my last recording of it, and it took me a few times to get it to where I wanted it. And so I'm like, okay, I want those lyrics. I've always wanted to, I want to introduce those lyrics today. I want to put those lyrics out there so I can talk about them and say that. I wanted to say that because that was what was on my heart to do, that lyric. And so I'm like, I can't do it. Is there a way I can do it right and get permission? How do I do that? I don't know, really. And there is ways, but I don't know how to do it. So I always try to do original songs or public domain songs, which means there's no copyright infringement upon the song because it's so old. It's an old hymn that's been public domain, right? So I realized, okay, but the lyrics, public domain. Can I come up with a tune that's just fitting, that's good? I don't want it to be confused with that song. And I was able to, I wanted to do the lyrics so bad, I think God may have given me the tune right then and there. I mean, I liked it. I'm like, wait, is that any kind of similar to anything else? And I couldn't think of anything. So a lyric that seemed to flow just came to me. I mean, a tune with the lyric that came. And so I did, I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. I'd rather be his than have riches untold. I'd rather have Jesus than anything this world affords today. And I just wanted that lyric. I didn't want the other verses. I just wanted that clarity and generality. That's the basic summary of the song. And I stuck with it. It's slower than that. I may have left something out of it, but I'm just showing you that I came up with that and I went with it and put it up. But here's why I like the lyric, and it makes a lot of sense. I'm already at 4 minutes. So, okay. But so I like the song because I used to understand that I'd rather have Jesus. And I knew I wanted to sing that song a lot when I was younger, much younger. But I'm drawing a blank right now. I've been talking basketball and everything else. And so I just want to fit this in and get this in. Well, it's on my mind, right? So I'd rather have Jesus than anything. You know, I've lost a lot of opportunities for various reasons, whether it was theft and it was my fault, mismanagement or whatever. And and it doesn't matter. I'm glad that I've learned. It matters some, but it doesn't matter too much because I'm glad I've learned and had more time to study Bible and study where I was wrong and see where God is right on things and understand it better. So I like learning from my experiences. I don't want to have bad experience just so I can learn from them. Okay, I'm not into that, but it happened that way, and so it's not, and some things were not inside of me, they were outside of me. It's some problems in society where I see people are trapped by lies and people are being isolated by drug laws and things like that, by crooked drug laws, that is. And that's empowered cartels to enslave people. So it's a form of slavery. It's a maybe worse form of slavery than people think, because they get medicated so they don't feel the pain. They don't feel the pain, but the worse, when you see it with your naked eye, we'll call it, somebody who's not in the drug world, doesn't know much about it, and they see the luxuries we have because we're not in that, and they mix that up and call it white privilege, but it's really drug-free world is isolated and has privilege that people in the drug zones where drugs are prevalent, where cartels have taken over hoods and things, that on purpose by the Democrat Party doing it. And that's completely my view, 100% my view, and I'm pretty sure it's right. You could say, well, you can't say that. That's not accurate all the way, 100%. Well, it's pretty accurate. They're letting fentanyl in the country on purpose. They don't care, and that's genocide even, right? That's genocide. That's on purpose. It's genocide. So who are they trying to kill? Are they trying to kill more white people or more white in clubs, rich white people in clubs and stuff? Or are they trying to kill more black people in the ghetto by putting fentanyl in it? And I don't know what the numbers are. I know a ton of more white people than ever have been killed by fentanyl. But and I haven't heard a statistic on the black cultures, generally black cultures. But so some people say, who cares? Well, that's just their fault for using drugs. No, this is genocide. And anybody can be prone to fall for a medicine or even have their drink spiked because they're having a lot of pain. They could have had somebody who's never been into it and they got hit by a car, broke their legs and back, hip, or whatever. And some people have gotten into pain medicine for that, also because doctors wouldn't prescribe it because they're always so scared of addiction and stuff. But the real problem with addiction, just to sum it up, is people get robbed. The dealing groups actually rob the addicts, and people think they spend all their money on drugs, but if they did, they'd be dead on the first 30 minutes probably. If they actually spent all their money on it, a lot of them, it would be dead if they didn't know how to go slow. But if you go slow, then it doesn't cost that much, right? And even then, it doesn't cost that much. Not your whole bank account. They get somebody high and they take their cards, they'll drain their whole bank account. And that's the dealing groups, the same people who gamble and or with the mafias that gamble with the NBA and stuff, right? That's the greedy people they're bullying the NBA. The Democrat Party actually has them on purpose bullying the NBA. That's why they're scared to talk about abortion or anything. They're scared to talk about Jesus. They're scared to talk, and so they don't know anything. When you're scared to talk about something, you never learn anything. All right? You're also scared to study it too much because then you start learning and then that tempts you to talk about it. All right? So anyhow, so somehow they've enslaved the NBA, in my view. I mean, my suspicion, and now I'm seeing it's proven, right? So I'd rather have Jesus than anything this world affords today. So despite the fact that I've run into some of those issues and had my life stolen from me, in a sense, I've had cars stolen from me. Lost all my friends when I had first car stolen, or burned on fire it was, and for being white, my car was set on fire. But but it didn't matter. Nobody cared because you shouldn't have been there. Some people would say that's what you get for hanging out with black people. And I'm like, I didn't agree with that because there's something more to it than that, And I could, why these folks, that is in the black cultures I hung around at that time, or I would periodically visit, I'll say, is they would be so desperate for money. I'd be offering them money and they'd want to take my money. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. They're under pressure. I felt like it was slavery, some kind of slavery, extortion, or something going on so the drugs is part of it. But some of them aren't as innocent and victim as you think. Some of them are into the game, or they've given into it and they've adopted that, and so it's a gamble. What they're doing is a gamble out there in the streets. A lot of these groups, but they're visible because they're in the streets. All right, so they're in the streets and they make it visible and obvious. And in certain other cultures, you don't see people in the streets like that. But if you have the naked eye, you see the problem. But the people who are used to it don't necessarily, and they don't want somebody claiming that's a problem because that's where they want to be. And there is some freedom in being able to walk out in the street and go where you want. But on the other hand, that's still, people get used to it. And that's their safety net. At some point, it becomes your safety net. But I don't want to get off on that. I'd rather have Jesus, though, than all that confusion and all the chaos. I'd rather have Jesus than dying and going to hell, knowing I can go to heaven where there's no more crying, no more sorrow, no more pain. I might have lost most of my life, never had a good marriage, never had children, stuff like that. But I'd rather have Jesus and the knowledge I have, and I'd rather be able to teach it to the next generation so they can have children, they can have a good family. I couldn't have children, a good family. I couldn't find a good wife because everything in our society today is hate on drug addicts. Hate drug addicts and everything. And the only sin in the world is doing drugs. Losing your temper is not a sin. Controlling, micromanaging people, interfering with people's diet is not a sin. There's a heresy in the church that thinks sobriety is salvation. So it's hard to find anybody in church circles that, to me, is still has compassion for the drug cartel slaves, we'll call it. And so I had a particular calling, I think, for mission work, technically, in areas where people are isolated and abused, I guess you could say. And it turns out to be right here in America in the cartel. I think that's what I was supposed to do. And I'm not saying I did it through organized means. And today, if you even talk about doing something like that, the church doesn't understand it. Most churches don't understand it and don't exist. But the ones that are involved in helping homeless shelters understand it somewhat. But then a lot of those are not legitimate churches. They're just using their government grants, and the ones that don't do it, it's okay to have a government grant to help if you're going to do that. But some of them are churches that are there to promote perversions of the Bible, and some of them are Islamic groups trying to mask themselves as Christian groups so they can get the grant and get the power and work hypocritically with gangs to keep people silent and not let them talk religion and politics. For the most part, the gangs take over the homeless venues, and they enslave them to silence, and they threaten people and make it dangerous in the shelters. The Democrats let killers out of prison to run the shelters and all this kind of stuff so they can keep the slavery going, or at least the silencing going of politics, so nobody knows who to vote for. And they lied to and told that Trump is the devil. I'll kill you if you dare even think about supporting him. So people, they're not informed out there. They're told that Trump's a Nazi while they're sitting there supporting Islamic groups who killed Jews, and Trump's the best friend to the Israel in the history of the world, and the history, maybe of the history of the world, but the history of America. He's the best friend to Israel, and Israel's doesn't mean Jews are all good, because a lot of Jews, the Judaism today rejects Christ, that he was the Messiah. They reject Christ, that he was the Messiah, right? And so they're anti-Christ Jews, right? And the Bible predicts that. It predicts there's going to be a lot of Antichrist Jews. But we still love Israel because that's where Christ was born. We love Israel because that's where Christ lived. All right? And so that's the center of the world. He's there for all people. He probably chose that location on purpose because it's the center of the world. It's right by Africa. It's right by Europe. It's right by Asia. It's in the middle of those anyway. It's not the closest, but it's closest. It's in the middle. So I'm about to have to go. But, so I'd rather have Jesus than anything this world affords today. That's true. Because all this stuff's going to go. Life is but a vapor. Everything, the flowers grow, they die. Everything dies. Everything's here short-lived. When you get older, you realize, where did my life go? And I'm like, so I look back and I couldn't find that girlfriend I wanted and all this stuff. And maybe I'll still get to have one for, 2 weeks before I die or something. But, and I enjoy it. I used to feel like, okay, I can't have a girlfriend in case I die or something, in case I get killed, because this lifestyle, the kind of people I've met in my life, I've got all kinds of threats on me. I've almost died many times. Like, well, that wouldn't be fair if I dated somebody and then I got killed. I used to feel that way because there's so much pressure for people not to date. And but it's okay. They don't put pressure on gangsters and drug dealers not to date. But say if you've had an addiction problem, you can't date. And somebody else who's in the same boat as you, I think you want to date somebody in the same boat as you. I can see what you can also make a case for why you wouldn't, because you wouldn't want to cause each other to relapse. But if you're with somebody genuine who's trying to take care of their body and everything else, that doesn't matter. People drink coffee and they date. You know what I'm saying? That shouldn't matter technically. But however, they're around a lot of liars and cheaters and killers and thieves when you're doing it from the streets, right? So you got to figure out if they have a good heart or not. So I would say, yeah, don't worry about that. I mean, my advice still would be, yeah, you try to date somebody who's trying to better themselves. Doesn't matter where they're from. All right. So the key is that they're trying to do better. They love God. And the other stuff doesn't matter. You just keep working on it. All right. So, and yeah, there are risks, but keeping yourself pure before God is a good thing. You want to be involved with somebody, one person, and to try to stay pure before God, sexually wise, and that they do protect you that way. Your partner protects you in that sense, so you're not tempted for fornication. So that's partly why I've wanted a partner, but it didn't happen, right? So when you're single, you have certain temptations, and some people are not tempted. And Paul teaches us it's better to stay single if you don't have those temptations. Anyhow, but but in some cases, you feel like you need to have a partner. I felt that way at times, except I don't want one taking my time away from what I'm doing right now. But so that makes it hard too. I get picky in that sense. And then most people can't talk. Everybody's scared to talk nowadays because the Democrats have made everybody scared to talk. And then they've taught people to be mean. I guess a lot of people will be mean and they won't let you talk if they see one thing they disagree with. They're like, get away from me. And they'll treat you like a monster or something. But so there's a lot of that. And that's amongst people who have been around a lot of stuff, cartel stuff and all that. But anyhow, I think I have to take a break. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close out because really I talked about all kinds of stuff I didn't expect to talk about because I kind of forgot the main meditations I had on I'd rather have Jesus. But I wrote the song because all that confusion I just talked about, I'd rather have Jesus. But no, I really love the lyric and it feels good to know it. And then it applies to so many things actually. So, but I was able to write it because I couldn't sing the other version without copyright permission, and I've never had time to worry about that. In the future, I still want to sing to him. I still hope I can present my other arrangement of it because people know that tune. And so I may change the title to "I'd Rather Have Jesus 2" with the number 2 written, and that's it. But I did write the tune and the composition. And I used the lyrics of, I think it's a Mrs. I didn't have time to write the whole name. Sometimes I don't have space, but it's Miller, Miller, that wrote it in 1922. And the original tune version was copyrighted and put in place by George Beverly Shea. But I love the lyric. I actually do. I probably sing that song more than most of my songs.